on 4.2.3, multiplying mixed numbers. First, let's go ahead and look at our foldable. Let's go ahead and fill this out. First thing, remember, whenever we're multiplying with fraction, we do not find a common denominator. Instead, we multiply the numerator by the denominator and multiply the denominator by the denominator. Then simplify if possible. Make sure we're probably always going to have to simplify in this one. Now, let's go ahead and look at our example. First thing we want to do is change them to improper fractions. Remember, it's the side times the bottom plus the top. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 4 is 14. So 14 over 5 times 3 times 7 is 21 plus 4 is 25 over 7. Then you just want to go ahead and multiply your numerator times your numerator and your denominator times your denominator. So if we look at this, we want to multiply 14 times 25. That gives me 350 over 5 times 7 is 35. Well, how many groups of 35 can I take out of 350? Well, the answer is going to be 10. So in this case, it just becomes a whole number, and I can leave it that way. Now, we talked about modeling already with fractions, so let's go ahead and look at this. If we had a diagram and we needed to illustrate 1 1/2 times 2, we would have to have one side be 1 1/2 and one side be 2. And if we're looking at this diagram, we can see that we'd have 2 whole squares shaded in and half of 2 more squares. So that would be like 1 plus 1 plus a half plus a half. So that would give me 3. So 1 1/2 times 2 really equals 3. So let's look at some more. And remember, we don't have to draw diagrams. We can just use our shortcut method that we already used. I'm going to use that here. 1 1/2 times 3. Well, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as an improper fraction. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 gives me 3/2 times 1/3. Well, this is going to have top times top is 3, bottoms times bottom is 6, and then simplify. This really equals 1/2. So 1 1/2 times 1/3 really equals 1/2. Here's another one. 1 1/2 times 2 1/2. In this case, I need to change both fractions to an improper fraction. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So 3/2 times 5/2 would give me 15 over 4. Again, be sure to simplify. How many groups of 4 can I take out of 15? Well, in this case, I can take 3. How many do I have left over? Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. So I would have 3/4 left over. Let's look at another one. Margaret suggests the shortcut for multiplying mixed numbers. Multiply the whole number part, then multiply the fraction part, and add the 2 results. Well, let's take a look and see if this works. Well, if I multiply the whole numbers, well, I have 1 1/2, but I don't have a whole number on the other one. It would just be 0. So 1 times 0 is 0. So that I don't have to worry about the whole numbers. And 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. So the answer would be 1/6. The other one is 1 1/2 times 2 1/2. Well, if we multiply the whole numbers, we get 2. If we multiply the fractions, 1 times 1 is 1, we would get 1/4. Now look back at page 24. Are those the same answers that we got when we used our method? The answer would be no. That is not a way that we can multiply them to get the answers. Here's another method. Miguel suggests another shortcut. Change the mixed numbers to improper fractions and multiply. Well, let's try that. 1 1/2 as an improper fraction is 3/2 times 1/3. That gives me 3 over 6, which equals 1/2. That's the same answer I got before. That was the method I was using, wasn't I? So, looking number 2, 1 1/2 times 2 1/2. Again, using the same method we've already used, seems to work the best. Change them to improper fractions and multiply. So this would be 15 over 4, which would give me 3 3/4. Knowing that I'm using the same method, I already know these work. Again, if we wanted to draw diagrams, we could, but we don't have to in this case. We've already done the modeling. I'm not going to do it again. Let's go ahead and practice. Here are some practice ones to work on. 1 3/8 times 2 1/2. Again, change them to improper fractions. 1 times 8 is 8, plus 3 is 11, so 11 over 8 times 5 over 2. Well, that gives me 55 over 16. How many groups of 16 can you take out of 55? Well, I can take 3 whole groups out. Since 16 times 3 is 48, how many do I have left over? I have 7 out of 16 left. And then I can't simplify that, so I would just write it as 3 and 7 over 16. Let's look at the next one. 3 1/3 as an improper fraction. Remember, side times the bottom plus the top. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So 10 over 3 times 8 over 5. I don't need to do anything with that fraction. 8 times 10 is 80. 3 times 5 is 15. Now, how many groups of 15 can you take out of 80? Well, I can take 5 groups out. That's 75. I have 5 left over, 5 out of 15. Can I simplify that 5 over 15? Yes, I can. 5 1/3. Go ahead and try the next 4. Come back and check your work. Let's see how you did. Here are the answers that you should have gotten. Go ahead and take a look at yours and see if you got the same answers I did. If you didn't, try to see where you found your mistakes. Here's another one. Willing wants to hang wallpaper on 2 walls of her kitchen. One wall is 11.5 feet by 8.5 feet, and the other measures 15 2/3 feet by 8.5 feet. About how many square feet of wallpaper will she need? Estimate first to calculate. Well, if I was going to estimate the first one, I would say, okay, 11.5 by 8.5, let's just say 11 times 8. That would give me 88 feet for the first wall. If I was going to look at the second wall, 15 3/4 and 8.5, if I just multiplied 15 by 8, I would be able to go ahead and estimate what is 15 times 8 is 120. If I add them up, my estimation I would say is 208 square feet I would need. That's my estimate. If I needed to do the actual work, I would have to calculate them out. First, I would have to take 11 1/2 times 8 1/2, change them to improper fractions, so that gives me 23 over 2 times 17 over 2, to find out that that would give me 391 over 4. Again, make sure you simplify. How many groups of 4 can I take out? Well, I can take 97 groups of 4 and have 3/4 left over. That's kind of difficult math, so make sure you're double checking. Then I would have to do the other wall, because remember, she has 2 walls. So I would take 15 2/3 times 8 1/2. Again, change them the improper fractions to begin with. 15 times 3 is 45, plus 2 is 47 over 3. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. 17 over 2. Multiplying the numerators, 47 times 17 is 799, and 3 times 2 is 6. Again, how many groups of 6 can I take out of 799? Remember, you can use your calculator and divide. 799 divided by 6. To find out, you're going to take 133 whole groups out. That's going to give you 798, so you're going to have 1/6 left over. If I wanted to find the actual feet, I would have to add them up. Now I would have to use my rules of common denominators, because I have 97 3/4 plus 133 1/6. I would have to find a common denominator of 4 and 6. I can use 12. So that I would have to 97 9/12. Remember, I multiplied 4 by 3. I must multiply 3 by 3 to get 9, plus 133 2/12. If I add them together, I'm going to come up with 230 and 11/12. That's the actual amount I would need, 230 and 11/12. And then it adds, if there is 55 feet in each roll, how many would I need? Well, if I take 230 and divide that by 55, because that's how much each has, I would see that it's 4 point something. So I'm going to need more than 4 rolls. So I would have to say I need 5 rolls of the wallpaper. Go ahead and double check that and take a look at it a little closer. All right, let's do a few more practices here. Here we go. Multiplying fractions. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 3 times 15 is 45. 5 times 6 is 30. And then simplify. How many groups of 30 can I take out of 45? I can take one group. I have 15 left over. Then can I simplify that fraction? I can, to give me 1 1/2. Look at the next one. 5/6 times 3/10. Numerator times numerator is 15. Denominator times denominator is 60. Then I have to ask myself, can I simplify? Is there anything that goes into 15 and 60 evenly? Remember, we want to check 2, 3, 5, and 7 always. Yep, I can divide them both by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 60 divided by 5 is 4. So my answer should be 3/4. Oh, excuse me, no. 60 divided by 5 is not 4. I did 15. I need to double check my work. What is 60 divided by 5? That should be 12. So I should get 3/12 to simplify again to 1/4. Make sure you double check it. It's easy to make a mistake when we're doing these. Sometimes I do it myself. So double check your work and make sure we don't have any mistakes. Try the rest, come back and give it a look and see how you did. All right, here's the rest of them. See how you did? Do your answers match mine? If not, take a look at them again and see where you may have made your mistakes. All right, on the next page, there are some more practices for you. If you're still struggling, give them a try. Try to at least do half and then come back and double check. Again, here are your answers. Double check your answers with mine and see how you did. The last one in here is another recipe. This recipe is a little tricky. The recipe that we have here serves 5 people, but I need to serve 6. So what am I going to multiply these by to get to 6 people? Well, the first thing says vegetable stock. Well, how much vegetable stock do I have? 1 1/2 cup is needed to serve 5. How much do I need to serve 6? Well, I'm going to change that 1 1/2 to an improper fraction and say it's 3/2. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start with 3/2. I'm going to multiply that with, I need 6. 6 is what I need, and the recipe serves 5. So I'm going to multiply it by 6/5 because I need 6 parts, and the whole recipe is 5. Remember, fractions are part to whole. And then you can multiply. This would give me 18/10. Simplify that out to 1 4/5. So I would need 1 4/5 cup, which is kind of strange when we talk about recipes. But remember, we're more focusing on the math than the actual recipe here. Let's go ahead and do the carrots. 2/3 cup diced carrots using the same method. Always going to multiply by 6/5. I'm going to write this down here because I need a little more space. 2/3 times 6/5 would give me 12/15. Remember to always simplify. I can divide them both by 3 to get 4/5. Go ahead and try the rest. I'll write down the answers. You see if you get what I got. So go ahead and pause for a moment. Come back and check out the answers and see what you get. These are the answers that I got for each of them. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, or if you did not get the same answers I got. Let's go ahead and give it another try. And still having difficulty, let's talk about it in class.